This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
I'm calling to order the Public Safety Building Committee at 4:32 on July, help me.
July 8th.
July 8th, thank you. So I see one member of the public. Do you have something to say? Stephen, welcome, by the way.
Thank you. Stephen Johnson, elected member of the Select Board and the Planning Board. You know, again, I'm just here because I'm very interested now that the town has the go-ahead to acquire this entire property, how we can optimize the value to the town. And, you know, stepping aside from any prior constraints from the offer or prior notions, what's the very best way to use this property? And I had the opportunity to visit with Charlie earlier today. I've been working closely with Scott and Chris. I know, okay. Yeah. It's like declaring your party or something.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interest, but there needs to be sort of a gelling of the interest into some more tangible thoughts about maybe the public safety building is better closer to Route 10 or shifted this way or that. The senior center, given that the seniors have said they're willing to go there, I think that's kind of conditional. So I'm very interested in helping bring these differing thoughts together so we can figure out, again, the optimum arrangement of public uses on this property. And I think we're going to have to hire an outside professional. I've been in contact with Chris and Scott about that. You know, it kind of depends on how much we can self-facilitate. And I think, I won't speak for Charlie or for other people who I hold in high esteem, but I think we might be able to do that among staff and boards. But
Excuse me, say that again. We might be able to do that, what?
Self-facilitate. Okay, what I mean is all volunteer to help the conversation progress. Scott would be equally and perhaps more institutionally neutral in exploring different concepts. Mark has a lot of history in doing what I would call a charrette, right? And we're going to all get our confidence up and actually put a mark on that plan and say, this is something that makes sense to me, we ought to be over here. Or these two uses really make sense together. Or we have to watch out, this is the key thing, we have to watch out for this. Charlie gave me one of those today, thank you very much. But let's go into this with optimism, that understanding the property as we do, we can have an intelligent conversation about what works together. And all the detailed technical analysis will follow if we can say what we want. That's why I'm here.
Thank you. Welcome. So you, hiring a planner, well, no, I wasn't hiring who?
A consultant.
For land use, a land use consultant, or what kind of a?
Well, I would say a landscape architect firm, and it might be helpful to us if we either also identified an efficient surveyor or a full-service firm that had landscape architecture and surveying within it, that we could move forward. My understanding is other due diligence is already underway, titled wetlands. So the wetlands should tie into a survey. That may be our surveyor for the project. But really, it's a pretty heart-to-heart conversation about what are the things that we'd like to see this property accomplish in the town. You don't have to have technical expertise. We can draw ideas and plan, and then it is iterative or a cyclical process, and we collectively refine what might be our highest aspiration, and then we will have to test it with geotechnical surveys and so on. But at the beginning, knowing what Mark and Charlie and I know about, probably several of the rest of you, about this property, it's almost too developable, in a funny way. I mean, that generates a new constraint. We want to develop it in the most sensitive and appropriate way. In fact, we only want to develop it because we absolutely need a public safety complex. We have a great opportunity to have a senior center, a new senior center, affordable housing, recreational assets, at least minimally connecting to the Greenway. There's a lot that's interconnected, and I just want to be of service, put that out there.
Okay, so yeah, my question was about what kind of a consultant you were recommending, or saying that had been in discussion, so
yeah,
that's great,
will
okay.
Evolve.
So we almost need like a feasibility study for one.
We need a scope for the feasibility study that we can, if necessary, put out to bid or go with anyone who's under a blanket contract for the town.
Thank you. All right, let's review the minutes from June 27th. Everybody had a chance to read them? May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I have a suggestion. I don't know, Mark, if you got my email. I think there was one other item of business that occurred that night, and that was I stepped down from being the clerk, and you so kindly volunteered. I don't think
That was 2 meetings ago.
Oh, it was 2 meetings ago?
Yeah.
Oh.
You were sick last week.
Oh, that's right. I couldn't even make it. Beep.
Okay, so approve as written?
Then I have to
Motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second, please.
I wasn't present.
Okay, may I have a second? Chief, you were
Second.
here, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any abstentions?
I
I
abstained.
abstained.
3 abstentions.
As the English tell us, even if you weren't here,
That's right.
you can still vote for minutes, even if you weren't here. You don't have to
You need
abstain.
enough to vote. I'll remove my abstention.
Scott, do you have any updates for us on the land? Or is it just steady on?
Just steady.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're still hoping for September for the closing date, so we're still working on all the borrowing and due diligence, so.
Great, thank you. Now, I didn't print out this afternoon's agenda. Thank you, Chief.
Yep.
Yeah, you're up. Brochure update.
Brochure update is I sent her the corrections. I found actually a couple smaller ones, just little things like that we didn't pick up on where a lot of words were capitalized and some weren't. I found a couple of those. I asked her to correct those. And then she followed up with a where to have the actual barcode, the QR code rather. And I gave her the public safety building, the town's website directly, so it goes right to the public safety building portion of our town's website. And so I'm just waiting on her final copy now.
And once you give her the go-ahead, did we vote to have that sent out pronto?
I think
Okay,
We
so.
did, okay, that was last
Yeah.
meeting then,
I
okay.
think we did. Said we
We
wanted
did,
to get
we
it
did.
mailed out.
That's what I
pretty
meant.
quickly,
Right
right?
after the
Yeah,
vote. Yeah.
I think so.
So
I'll,
we'll just wait for them
Mhm.
to arrive in our mailboxes,
Yep.
hopefully soon.
then when I get it I'll review it again, and then ask them to send it out. And I saw something in the minutes about payment.
Yeah.
I spoke with Cons, he's gonna pay them directly.
So they'll invoice Con?
Yes. Yeah.
And they've got all they need for the mailing and, I mean, the address, I mean, they've got some list that they're working off by.
That I'll have to probably get them,
Okay.
but they haven't asked for it, but yeah, I'll get them
Okay.
as soon as it comes out.
For the addresses?
Yeah.
My experience from a mailing in the past is the town clerk has access to
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
most recent households.
sure. I'll reach out to Lucy.
Won't cover any renters.
Mhm. Okay.
Is Lucy back in the
No.
office?
A part-time basis, yeah.
Oh, good. Is she doing well enough?
She seems to be progressing well, yeah.
Terrific. Okay, task 7. I sent a note to HKT asking them how they wanted us to submit the data that we've collected, and whether it was because it's a holiday week or what. They haven't gotten back to me, so I don't have any more information to offer.
There were some holes in
Yes.
that we hoped they would be able to fill in some cases, right?
Well, they have it, and I'm waiting for a response to know whether they want, you know, whether they want it converted into some kind of narrative, or whether they'll convert it into a narrative, or whether they'll just use the chart, the data chart. Now, we did talk about adding the new Lee complex so that it would compare, it would be more comparative to us in that here's what they had, here's what they voted to construct. Now, that column has not been added yet. Do we want to go to that work of adding that further column for comparative purposes?
It would be hard to add. It would just be hard to fill it in if we have to get, you know, certain pieces of information that are.
Would that not be,
equivalent
have been in the
The feasibility?
feasibility study? I would think so, square footage,
It does have that, it does have that, you know.
so it just
We
needs
might have to
research.
reach out as far as like apparatuses and cruisers and
Yeah.
personnel.
But isn't that what you did with
other
the
departments,
other
yeah.
towns anyway? Is that something that is valuable enough for you chiefs to contact
Yeah, yes.
Lee, and maybe we can fill that in?
If you get it, modify the one that I've been working on. If you get that information,
Okay.
include it as a column.
Yep, you got it.
All right, so we reviewed the feasibility study last week, and a few points were made. For those who weren't here, let's see, you read that in Mark's minutes, the points that were made. Has everybody had a chance to read them, read the report to the extent that they intend to, and want to make any comments that should be, well, for the committee, or that should be conveyed to Janet and Amy?
I'm going to admit, I have not read it, and I'm sorry. I will have to do that.
Okay.
I think I'd already made mine, just saying that they had not included any reference to the PowerPoint. Well, the PowerPoint presentation for the town meeting was in there, but it wasn't immediately obvious. It was kind of buried in the appendix.
It was,
But there was no narrative section about them having led this sort of public engagement session, which I think should be in the narrative report itself.
I said that there was none in the executive summary, and that was that long initial section, and I think it should be mentioned there. And then you also brought up, oh, I'm forgetting now, what was the second thing that was not,
I think there were just a couple of typos, they kept saying College Avenue.
yeah, but there was another.
Uh,
But I brought it to their attention
Yeah, okay.
in an email, and then I asked for consistency on the 3 parcels as far as classification for, in relation to water. They had just used 125 College as aquifer protection. They said that this is aquifer protection overlay district plus zone 2 wellhead protection area. And for Clark Street, they called it Barnes Aquifer and water supply protection overlay district. And it was all a little bit different. I just asked them to check on consistency for that. Because I don't know, is there a difference between Barnes Aquifer and water protection supply overlay district?
Not really. I mean, Barnes is that particular aquifer. It has the same jurisdictional or legal environmental restraints.
I just thought the language should be consistent. So, and they can argue, I mean, against it, but that's what I brought up. So those were the 3 things that were mentioned along with the typos that Chris pulled out. So it is my opinion that it's only fair to now approve or add comments at this time. So if there are no other comments, I'm going to say that the committee has approved it, as long as they...
Well, they need to incorporate Task 7, right?
Yes, yes. Well, I do have, so I have to hear back from them. And I will, since I didn't today, I thought, I mean, this is vacation time, and I thought I would contact them again midweek or end of week if they haven't gotten back with response to my email of, do you remember when I sent it? Didn't I? Well, I copied.
Certainly check.
I copied Scott and the chief and Chris, so anyway, it was recent.
You sent that out to all of us, Chris?
No, I did not. Not the email.
Oh, I don't think I got the actual study that you've all reviewed from previous. I don't think I got it, the feasibility
The
study.
draft report itself.
I don't believe I got it. But,
It was a link in
It
an
is a
email.
link because it was so large.
It was a link in an email from Chris, I think.
okay.
It wasn't an attachment, it was a link.
Right, it was a link.
Was it Zero College Highway FAQ file? No, it's not that.
No.
Update email? No. I'm sorry. Okay.
I'll send it again to you.
Thank you. Sorry. Here it is, 6/8. I got it.
All right, so then, in the past, we discussed calling them into one of our meetings to discuss or ask some questions about their response to the Lee feasibility study. And at the last meeting, there was not really a conviction to do that. I think it was not generally, there was not a lot of assertion that that should take place. We can change our minds about that. And then regarding questions about the feasibility study. So that, but then, so that would be a Zoom meeting, but then it's also the chief, Scott, Chris, and I are of the opinion that a group, a subcommittee, a subgroup of people need to have an in-person meeting with HKT to discuss what we've discussed, but further to discuss how to make this successful, because it's such an overwhelming project price-wise. So I'm going to suggest, and people can certainly weigh in, that along with the co-chairs, that planning, finance, and the select board join the chairs and Scott and me in meeting, and then the committee, so that it doesn't get confusing, so that it's as concise and direct as possible. The committee can submit questions that will be asked. Is that agreeable to this committee? And if so, would someone make a motion to appoint a subgroup to meet with face-to-face with Janet and Amy?
I think you might need to clarify more just the purpose of the meeting. I mean, what do we want to get out of that meeting?
Okay.
For those that...
Well, do you have something to say?
Go ahead.
Well, I think we have a colossal task before us. Everybody on this committee, I think, is feeling somewhat overwhelmed by the price tag, realistic though it might be. And they, in their proposal for the feasibility study, they emphasized their experience with building community support. And so in my email to them the other day, I made mention of that and said that now more than ever we needed to ask them to contribute in that way, because we know that we have a tall mountain to climb. And so it seems to me that since Zoom works, that to have an eye-to-eye conversation with them would be beneficial, to see what their opinion is about how we can make this a success. Is that sufficient, Chris, or do you want to add something?
The idea too is to see whether or not they can give us ideas, because they've obviously designed several of these in the past, and they've had, I'm sure, similar issues with various towns in terms of the price tag, and you know, what kinds of strategies have they helped towns use to win over the general population in terms of the plan in front of us, kind of thing. So I think we wanted to really pick their brains more, and finding, I personally thought it was better to have them in person rather than Zoom. I'm tired of Zoom, frankly, and I think it's just not that productive for this kind of a conversation. Try to, you know, have them really help us with where do we really go for public engagement to gain the support, given the projected cost, which we know is not a final design or anything like that. It's got contingency built in, it's got the highest possible inflation rate per year, et cetera, built in, but you know, that's kind of our ball that we're dealing with right now, and how do we explain that to the townspeople unless we really understand, you know, what we can do, what strategies will work from what they've experienced before, and is there anything that we might even say, okay, well, you know, we're on the high side, you know, what's a range? I mean, to me, I don't like, personally, I've said this before, but I don't like having just a number. I mean, I'd rather have a range that says, you know, it's going to be whatever it is, 25 to 35 million. I mean, I think putting out a 25 or a 30 million or a 40 million, I think that's just, we don't know, you know, and I'd rather see a percent range.
And I also think, too, the people I've talked to, I mentioned this to some of you, that nobody says we don't need it. Mm-hmm. Everybody says we need it. Anybody that has any knowledge whatsoever knows we need it, but I've had people say, but there's no way I'm going to vote for this at this number. So whether it's a range or specifics or what could be carved down if we had to get it down by a number of million, whether there would be another opinion that would give us a different cost estimator, which I mentioned to you, Christina, that they're wonderful, they're perfect. Would another cost estimator say something differently? It's hard to argue this one right now, in my opinion, without actual specific efforts on the parts of us, as well as planning board and select board and everybody else, to say, we have tried jumping through hoops to figure a way to get this down, and this is what we can do, but we can't, we're not asking for everything. We believe that because we've been close to it right along, but I don't think we have good arguing points at this point.
So does the committee agree that a subgroup would request an in-person meeting with Janet and Amy?
Just to meet there or meet here?
Well, I think here, I suppose there is an option if they, is it built in to their cost that they would come out?
I think there's another time or two that they were gonna maybe come out here, because I think we had a second in-person meeting. We've only had them really, since the kickoff meeting, we've only had them once.
Well, best to get them to come here.
Seems to me there were at least two built into the budget on that.
I think there was.
Check on that.
I think you're right.
I think there was.
I think so.
As well as their being at the town meeting, I think.
Right, yeah. So, and just trying to figure out, I think I think looking at the different tasks and the contract or whatever, the proposals they put forward, they should technically be done with us by now. I mean, I think the town meeting was kind of their end point at one point in time, but we've still got hanging things to finish with them. So, to sort of clarify what more needs to be done, what more do we have to do, what more do they have to do? And, but I think, they put such a big emphasis on community engagement and their experience and their belief in that. And I think, it's not in their interest to not see this project succeed. So, I mean, I think it would be, I would think that they would welcome the idea to sit down and just say, hey, look, we've done this in other communities. This is the kind of problems that they faced. Here's how we kind of overcame them. I just think we need some outside ideas to sort of, jumpstart our own plans for the next couple months.
Again, what I'm proposing is to have it include Scott, the co-chairs, and then reps from planning, finance, and finance. So select board. Any comments on that?
I had a question. You're looking at the end of the contract with the consultants. Chris seems to be focused on what they owe us. But we need to take another run at value engineering. Or are there reasonable ways to reduce the cost? I have no idea whether this would or wouldn't, but to my idea of optimizing the land plan, top of the head, would they see efficiencies by shifting the location of the facility this way or that?
Yeah, that's one example with that.
No, it's just one, exactly.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And I made mention of that in one email to them.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I think at one point, we were only focused on that one parcel that we had to
course.
require for access and,
Of course.
having enough space for the fire trucks to be able to turn around and back in and all that kind of stuff, so.
And it's difficult in the absence of other concrete expressions of interest, but, I'm very eager to move that.
Well, and I think we know generally, we want roughly the 5 acres for the public safety and roughly 5 acres for senior centers. So we know that that's kind of the
Bigger
footprint.
than the bread box.
Yeah, and whatever's left
After that,
over,
where do we land it?
we go for whatever else. But but I think it's just sort of, I don't know, I just think we're going to need help to try and convince the citizens of Southampton to bite the bullet on this.
Yes.
And, it's great that we had 1,000 people turn out, or a little bit more than that, to vote, but there were 400 of those that were naysayers, and I don't know that we will convince those guys, but I surely want to hang on to the 600 that we had and gain more, obviously. And we've got a lot of work to do that.
A lot of those questions were, have you looked at this alternative, that alternative?
Well, they had, the architects had not, but
No,
yes, for the
but
citizens.
collectively, we
Yeah.
had looked at a lot of alternatives.
Yes,
and
exactly.
So how do we make that response more, get more traction?
So you need a motion?
Yes.
So I move that there be the formation of a subcommittee that includes representation from planning board, select board, finance committee, although there's overlap in a lot of those, and the chairs of this committee. And frankly, I think you should say anybody else that wants to volunteer who's been on this committee. They don't have to, because people put their hearts and souls into it. You have to categorically remove them, so other volunteers.
Correct. Well, part of the thinking on that is that the more people you get,
Yeah.
the more complicated conversation
That's true.
can become. We talked about having people submit questions. I agree with you if someone feels compelled to join in, but I'd like to keep it compact so that the discussion can be very direct and efficient.
So the motion includes, and the representation would be compact, so we can be concise and efficient. Is that all that word?
Anybody care to second it? Or make comments?
I just want to clarify, you were going to have a meeting with, subcommittee meeting with the co-chairs, someone from planning, someone from select board, someone from finance.
Well, that would be you, Reggie, and Chris.
And Scott, would he?
Yes.
Scott has to be there. Scott's our leader. One hopes. The town
Yes,
administrator.
I did mention. I did.
I'll be
Yes.
everywhere.
But, yeah, Scott, I wasn't thinking of only one representative from those groups. I mean,
We're talking from this committee, that's what she's trying to say.
only one representative from
We
each
want-
of those
yes,
groups.
yes.
Otherwise, you've got the entire committee, so you either have a subgroup or you have the whole committee, that's all. So, whatever.
We want HKT to have the opportunity to converse directly on a small scale,
Mm.
to answer some questions, to weigh in.
And you, excuse me, to either of the chairs or both, do you want to explain how you would feed back the results of that contact meeting to the larger group?
So I think, having a subcommittee, you could have a little bit more of a candid conversation, I think. It would facilitate a more candid conversation with them. And the idea was, if a subcommittee was chosen for inclusion, people ask questions, we submit those questions to them directly. And then report back to the committee the conversation and what was said.
Would it be filmed? Is it not an open meeting in the sense that videotaped?
We were actually thinking about having it maybe at the PD, in the conference room at the PD. But, we can certainly have it filmed if need be.
I think it'd be beneficial if it was filmed, just for, there might be members of the public out there that are actually watching, maybe they're watching this one, and just to see the kind of questions that are asked and the effort, the
Sure.
strong effort to make sure the questions are put to them, the hard questions. That's my thought. It's not secret, it's just, you just want it to be concise and not too many people in the room, kind of thing.
Right.
Efficiency.
Any thoughts on that, Scott? Filming or recording or not?
I mean, from just a logistics standpoint, I think we're going to be mostly huddled around plans and, looking through paperwork, so I'm not sure if that would be helpful because, we're doing the detail work. I'm just concerned about picking up the audio and the video.
Well, you're gonna have notes, for sure, anyway, which you can make detailed notes, but.
I'm withdrawing my motion only because it's gotten fragmented. In fact, it's not about, I think it needs to be restated, so I don't know how to state it at this point.
Before the motion is made, if we have 5 members of the committee at this meeting, is that a concern, a open meeting violation? do we have to advertise it as a public hearing? We'll have 5 members from this committee at that meeting.
And be a quorum?
Yeah.
No, it's not a quorum. 6 is a quorum.
Where's it?
But we have 5 members meeting.
No, I know what you're
Yeah.
saying, but Chris,
Okay.
I was,
But if Reggie was the representative from finance.
correct, he
He's part
is.
of this committee. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, Reggie is 5.
5. Well, it's not a quorum. Scott, does it have to be advertised as a, well, as an open meeting, then it would be recorded.
I mean, I think if you have the majority of people in one room to talk about, I would imagine it's an open meeting.
Okay, but it's not the majority. It's 5 out of 11.
Are you branching into something that is reasonably described as contract negotiations and how to wind up the deliverables from the contract?
My viewpoint on this is, personally, I would like to see a candid conversation with HKT where they can feel comfortable enough to say, and we can feel comfortable enough to say, this is too much. We think this is too much. Give us recommendations. How can we scale this down? How do we do that?
And
come
not
up-
lose the functionality that you want.
and not lose the functionality. So, you know, so it's the, sometimes when you're, you know, be quite frank about this, when you know that you're not being recorded, you can say things easier. They can, not us, they can. They can say, you know, well, we can, you know, whatever it may be. They might just feel more comfortable because it's not recorded, but again, I understand, Cindy, your thought process behind that. It's a valid thought process. It's just, I want to have I want to have a candid conversation. And, you know, responses might not be candid on video.
Okay, so the end result is to get a good, clear opportunity to see what do they recommend if it had to be carved here and reduced there and become a more saleable product.
That's my perspective,
Yeah, and I
yes.
think that should be, that's my perspective. So I'm wondering if instead of having them come here, you, small group, get in a large car and drive to, wherever they are, Charleston? Charleston, and then it being on their turf and feel good about, I mean, that sometimes works, to be in somebody else's office space and
That's easy for me, but everyone else here is volunteer, right? So, I mean,
well, true, I don't know, I can't speak for everybody. Yeah. So, that just occurs to me as, I'm 100% for, let's do everything we can to make this project happen and succeed. And if that's what it takes to get them to be candid, I don't know, are they not being candid? Are they not?
no, I don't mean, they're
Yeah.
not hiding anything by any
No, I
means.
know.
But, you know, you can have a more, look at how I'm speaking, right? Right now, I'm being recorded and I have to watch. You gotta be careful with everything you say,
Yeah.
right? And when you can have a conversation on terms where you don't have to have your words getting construed. And it can be just,
Okay.
you can be yourself a little bit more. I find that more effective communication sometimes. I understand the recording. I'm not trying to, there's no purpose other than that. It's just to get people to come out with, and ask things that normally they'd be a little hesitant to because they're afraid of public perception or they're afraid of how things could get, interpreted by the way they said it. Sometimes you misspeak. And sometimes when you misspeak and it's recorded, even though you misspeak, it's not what you intended to say or the context.
I mean, I do have a lot of questions for HKT myself, just on the plans that I think I'd probably be a little bit more comfortable off camera asking about. Things like, how come there's 2 office supply closets in the feasibility study? How come there's like 4 toilets right next to each other? Things like that. Like, not to rehash all the design choices, but
Right.
I think they could probably be a little bit more open.
And honest, and make it, they're not feeling like publicly their professionalism's getting judged by questions.
I sense discomfort with this. I'm going to make a slight change to contemplate. I'm going to suggest a smaller group. I'm going to suggest Scott, the chief, and I don't know how, I don't feel compelled. I just want the answers. I don't have to be part of this. I've been asking questions, but I want them to be able to answer the questions, and I want to learn what those are. I don't have to sit in that room. And I don't know whether, if to just have Scott and the chief meet with them would make people more comfortable. And maybe Mark, who has experience with this. So I'm throwing that out as an option that people would be more comfortable with.
Well, if I can make a little amendment to that, I mean, last meeting, it was Reggie that prompted some of these worries that we have. So I think as a new person in town and coming from a finance background, feeling very reluctant at the current price tag, I mean, I think I would include
finance. Okay, so I'm volunteering to step off.
I'll step off too.
All right, so here we've got Reggie, Scott, the chief, and Mark, do you care to sit in on, I think it would be beneficial.
I'd be willing to, yes.
I'm proposing now a subcommittee of 4 people. Scott is our town administrator, the chief as a representative of the co-chairs, Mark and Reggie, finance and planning. May I have a motion to appoint a subcommittee of these 4 people to meet directly with HKT?
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
Thank you. May I, Everett, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed?
Who made the motion?
Charlie.
No, Charlie.
Charlie and
Charlie.
Mark.
And Mark Mancino seconded it.
Okay.
And you guys can decide whether they come here, you go there.
The backbench has the power.
Great. So let's move on to public outreach and scheduling. Where to start with this? It is my opinion that it is still too early to schedule a special town meeting, and I would say, no, you don't think it is?
Yes, no, absolutely.
Okay. And it would seem as though we should at least wait until a meeting has taken place with Janet and Amy. And also at that meeting, it will be, the public engagement will be, it won't just be reducing cost of the building, but getting them to address how to build community engagement. So that will be a part of this.
So, earlier today I was thinking about this, and somehow I kind of saw this eventually getting on the ballot for the November election, but that I have been corrected on, that that's likely not going to happen because we
That is
can't do a
correct.
special town meeting before that, and it would be a mistake because it's
You wouldn't put it on the presidential ballot.
because it's a big election. Okay. So that's just to be,
Yeah,
that's
and-
correct, right?
Well, in my opinion, we've got a lot of work to do before we have a special town meeting. We are far away from a special town meeting. If we didn't have one until February, I'd be fine. I think we got a lot
We have to
of work
wait
do.
till we're ready.
Yeah, we've got a lot to do.
We do. We have a
There's no hurry to do a
huge
special
task
town meeting.
before
We've
us.
got lots of things to get in order to present a case to the town about what we're trying to do. There's many steps that we've got to go through for
So
all this preparation.
I don't know the answer to this. Somebody has to answer this question. Can we find out actually who voted, not how they voted, but who voted from the federal aid acquisition? Because there was one question on the ballot. Because I sat there for 4 hours, half worked up time. And I know there were lots of people. I sent out 120 emails myself. And I asked people, and I'm not saying everybody that I sent emails to, but I think a lot of people that I saw came because of emails I sent to them. And then I said, please ask other members of your household, please ask your neighbors, etc. So you got to do that kind of thing to get people out. And I believe that there was another large contingency that were supportive of the fact that the owners of the property were eager to see this succeed. That was my unofficial opinion, that there were just lots of people that were somehow connected with the owners of the former owner, well, not yet former owners of the property. So that's how this town works. You gotta like stir things up. And there weren't hardly anybody that they didn't recognize. In other words, there weren't new people that were coming through, very many. There weren't people, I think Reggie said to me one time, because he lives in a brand new neighborhood, a beautiful neighborhood down off Pequot Road, he says, people don't even think about these things. They don't, they're brand new to the town and they don't even know what's going on. So we have a big job to get people out. I don't know about you guys. You look around at your neighbors and do they vote?
I think it would be particularly interesting to know, and I don't think we can find this out, is why, the reason people voted against it.
No, I've asked Lucy if she could somehow pull a report just to give us the demographics of, can we know how many from age 18 to 30 voted and the 30 to 40 and the 40 to 50
and what area. I saw the address.
So she's going to be working on that when she can come back. She said she could run some report out of her computer on that. We won't know who they are, we don't know how they voted, but at least just to get a sense of how wide was the reach around town. Are we just focused on East Street and North, or are we missing the south part of town? I mean, we need to know
that. Well, that would be helpful, but it still would also be helpful. I really want to know why people voted against it. That survey couldn't be done, could it?
I don't know what kind of answers you get from
you can always do exit polling and stuff like that, how accurate that is.
Yeah.
It's...
Right.
I mean, the underlying statement that I kept hearing was the ones that were voting against it was they don't want to see tax increases.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
Well, that's what I wondered, whether that was the basis.
That's what I was hearing. But
well, then we've got to, that makes our challenge even
I think
more mighty.
A little bit of that. The only other comment I think that comes to my mind that I heard was, the town's always buying land, and then there's all this stuff that we don't do with it. So I think they're looking at the land behind the former, the fire station right now. We bought this land, we're not doing anything in it. We got land here and there that we bought, we're not doing anything with it. So there's the naysayers, I think that nothing's going to happen anyway. There's that crowd.
Right. But I wonder too if there were other reasons. So it's just something that I'm curious about, because we have to address that. It would be helpful to be able to address.
Sure. Well, and I think, as we talked when you and I and the chief met in Scott, we were talking about, I personally feel like we've got to do, community engagement 101 on steroids. Over the next few months, we cannot have meetings, just public forum, where the town has to come to us. We have got to be out in the communities doing mini focus groups, mini, whatever we call them, some, neighborhood gathering somewhere, and just have an open session, open Q&A with the officials of the town to talk about the future development of that land. And we figure out, per maybe how you've divided up the town into your quadrants and whatever else. It's like, okay, in this quadrant, what might be a central possible meeting point? It could have to be somebody's house, or could it be the parking lot of a store, or what could it be? Just so that we do that. I think over the next 3 or 4 months, that's what we've got to be doing. We've got to be out promoting this. We just can't be sitting in our little 4 walls here and expecting the town to come vote once every 6 months.
Well, and that will lead me into a thought process that I've had, and that is that we as a committee are not going to convince 4,000 voters to vote in favor of this. And so while I was weeding away, I was thinking that I am spending a gigantic amount of time thinking about this project and working on a meeting, not any more than any of you, but I'm expending energy on this project. And I thought to myself, who else? Do I even know that the police staff and the fire staff are energized about this? Are they committed? And so I'd like to ask, how many of your staff are Southampton residents?
Oh, I would say half, 9 maybe.
And how about yours?
It's a good question. I mean, a lot of the guys know we need, you know, updating a new station. How engaged they're gonna be. I mean, a lot of them from out of town, so.
Well, no, I was asking how many are Southampton residents?
Oh, I don't know. We have maybe 10 people in the department that live in town.
Okay.
Out of how many?
We have close to 50.
Ooh.
So,
Okay, so 10 and 9. And I don't mean to be challenging, it's part of what I'm thinking. Did they feel compelled, do they want this facility enough to have come to the public forum?
yeah,
Or did they come to town meeting to vote for the land?
they both, yeah, they went to both. They, you know, they came pretty open house. We had probably half a dozen people here doing the tours. So they're engaged.
I know my personnel, I was the only one that went to the forum, I believe, from the police department aspect. But as far as voting, no, I wasn't the only person that voted, that's for sure.
In my opinion, I would like to see every officer, every firefighter at our next public forum sitting in the front row with a uniform on, and every one of them speaking why they need this new building. Because if there isn't a conviction that it's mandatory, why would I even vote for it? Why am I putting this kind of energy into a project that is being met half-hearted by the very people who are going to benefit most from it? And I don't mean to be sounding hard, it's just, you know, I'm kind of direct. But it really, okay, gee. But I'm trying, do you get it? I mean, do you agree that we need to have wives and husbands and family members of the people who
Will benefit.
will benefit from it, and we need to hear from each and every one why we should be paying extra taxes to build this facility. So that was just part of, because I feel like we, as this handful of 11, 12 people, not a chance that we're going to convince so many residents to vote for it. We need all hands on deck. And these seem to be, your crews seem to be the very first people. And maybe they could even, what I wondered is, can they become the core of that Friends of Public Safety, to, you know, get lawn signs out and, you know, really start to engage the public. It's just,
Is there somebody in that group that could be the chair of the Friends of, you know, they don't have to do all the work, but somebody else needs to, is there a leader person among your staff that would likely be able to be the chair and rouse the people to support this? Or maybe a former person, a retiree of either of your forces?
I can say I can put it out there. I can't guarantee you
Something to
the
think about.
response, you know. It's,
Can you
it
whip 'em
makes
up?
very good.
can you whip them up? Come on, chief.
But it's you know, it's a very valid point. It's a very valid point.
There's so much confusion out there. Why can't we use CPC money for this? Can't, you know, that's just one thing that just confuses people. They don't understand the differences. Why are we getting all this land when we could be building all these big houses and getting all this tax money in? Well, it's not that easy. It's not straightforward like that. We need to inform, and I'm with you, Christina, to get the people that are, you know, most online to benefit in their workplace for this new building. the rest of us got a benefit because we're gonna have that.
Well, I think that's some of the other thing that we have to, over time, and this would be a question I would like, if you can present to HKT, is how can we quantify for the average citizen what difference it's going to make to have a new facility?
Mm-hmm.
You know, is it going to shave 5 seconds off our response time, or is it?
Right.
What difference is it going to make to have a new facility, aside from hopefully attracting officers and firefighters and EMTs,
Right.
and retaining them and providing a good working environment, which we all know has been a challenge for this town. But if we're going to do that, then I think you mentioned the other day that things seem to be working. So, you know, they're working until they don't, right? Until you need
Right,
something and
right.
it's not there.
Or if somebody gets hurt at the fire department, right? Because
Yeah.
their foot gets run over by the truck while they're trying to get out. For the police department, it's, you know, how it would benefit the town. Again, I think you hit it with, it's the retention and recruitment aspects, right? As long as there's competitive wages and you have a nice new facility, you're going to be attracting some people. That's important, especially for a town the size of Southampton, because when you have retention, you have experience. When you have experience, you have good employees that know the business. And there's nothing worse than, you know, having a police officer, very, you know, junior on the job, show up at a very serious crime or a very serious incident, whatever it may be. It's always nice to have that retention. It's always when you can tell the difference between a 30-year veteran showing up and or even a 15-year veteran or 10-year veteran versus a 6-month. And if you have a revolving door, which oftentimes places do, we're fortunate in Southampton that we don't. But if you have that revolving door, you're getting new people in and out, and it's you know, there's more concern there's liability concerns. And people making the wrong decision.
So you kind of answered. You just said, fortunate in Southampton, we don't have a revolving doors in your police force. You've got some
I will tell you why we
loyalty.
don't. We have loyalty. We don't. Part of that is loyalty, but also part of that is the board has supported wages for our department, the select board. And that I've already seen the difference.
One further thought that I had is that if this goes down, I would think it would be after all this time and for a second time in the past 10 years, if it is not approved, it would be highly demoralizing both for you and for your crews, because it shows a lack of public support. And it just seems, if we can't get our residents to recognize how important these two departments are to us, I don't know. It just seems to me like if it goes down, it would be perfectly reasonable to think that the next time, you know, if my house is on fire, I'll call and they'll say, yeah, I'll come have a look after I finish my breakfast. Honestly, I think it would be, it just seems as that though after all this time, if public support is not there, then I would feel demoralized. It's been being worked on for a long time.
Well, I think too, I mean, you know, tying back where I started to say with HKT, in talking to them, I would assume that they've been able to quantify some of this for other towns, and it would be good to know if they have any kind of recommended, you know, thoughts about that. But, you know, I think as much as we think, and I think we did a pretty good job mobilizing the community and advertising and public engagement. I think we've done more than we've ever done for public engagement on this particular strategy in 30 days or 45 days. And, you know, it showed in terms of getting the people out, but there are still people who, as much as we think people understand the need, there's still people that don't understand that, let alone this next big hurdle, which is the price tag. I mean, even today, we're getting emails from people saying, why didn't you tell us that there was a special town meeting? You know, what's all this, you know, backroom deals that you're doing, having all these special meetings, and you know, we didn't know about it. It's like, where have you been, living under a rock? I mean, we have done so much stuff, from newspapers to, you know, all the social media to, you know, post boards around town. I mean, I'm not sure what else we could have done other than run up and down every town with a megaphone.
1,000 ballots were mailed out.
1,000 ballots were mailed out.
That's
So,
infuriating.
you know, so in spite of that,
People
it's like you've still got people who had no clue that there was a town election. And it's like, what? It's like, so so that's what I'm saying, is that that makes me more determined. As annoying as it is, it makes me more determined that we have got to get even more and more and more community engagement out there.
Well, if a mailer is sent close to the time, it's another brochure, when it goes to every household, that cannot be an argument.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's just frustrating.
Well,
I think
it is.
we've worked a lot to do this, and that's still a reaction. You get, it's like, oh my God, how did that happen?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but it's, you know, it just shows that we're not reaching everybody, obviously, and we have to, you know, do even more, so. Anyway.
But you got 60% plus at the ballot.
Of those who came to vote, yeah. But only 25% of those that should be voting.
And 25% is actually more than some.
Yeah, no, it's quite true. Yeah.
And just enough.
I think your motivational speech is absolutely appropriate, all of you. And I think we need to figure out ways to get out the vote. Some of you got emails from me on this. I think that's really important. To the extent that it's helpful, I will invite my neighbors to get together and talk about it when you think that it's right, whether it's this property alone, or this initiative alone, or the larger context of look at what the community is growing into.
Yeah, and I think it's things like that that we need to, you know, really, hopefully after a discussion with HKT, and just talk about how we can plan this out. I mean, if people agree with me that we need to be out in the community more ourselves, you know, doing something like that, then we schedule them and we publicize them, and people know that, you know, okay, Hampton Ponds, you know, October 12th, we're coming to you. November 15th, we're going to be on Pomeroy Meadow. Whatever it is. I mean, we need to do that and get the word out far enough ahead so nobody can say that we didn't tell them. And we're there, and if people want to show up, so what? You know,
there still will be those.
Huh? There's what?
There still will be those.
Oh, I know, there will be, but I mean, you know, at least, you know, I think we will have tried to be much more visible ourselves as well. And, you know, so I think that, you know, that's part of a whole planning, you know, whatever, you know, whether it's 6 locations around town or whatever it is. I mean, we set up a tent in Red Rock Plaza and whatever, something.
What about something like the
a movable tent, Charlie.
Celebrate Southampton or Old Home Days, whatever they, something
Yeah,
like that.
that's true. So that's happening August 10th, I believe. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a table there too. We didn't even think about that.
You know, put up a tent and at least put up them.
Yep, put up the poster boards.
Right.
Good point, yeah. Sure.
Can you do, for Celebrate Southampton, can you do open houses again, that Saturday?
We usually have equipment there.
Yeah,
Down at the park.
but I'm just saying, to see the conditions here, can you have, like, even if it's only for an hour or two, not the
Yeah.
whole time?
Like I said, usually on Saturday we have Friday night, and Saturday we'll have a
Yeah.
fire truck and ambulance over there where people do little demonstrations and walk through the equipment or whatever.
Yeah. It's the building. It's the,
Yeah.
and is that possible for you guys?
It is, you know. I can certainly be there. And shift officers, but I can ask for volunteers. But yes, it's
Maybe there could be some hand flyers that can be just kind of like handed out to the people that show up. If it's 112 degrees, people don't come. If it's pouring rain, people don't come. But if it's a balmy 75 degrees and breezy, then people will come.
But let me reach out to the organizers and ask for if there's a space for like a little table or something that we can set ourselves up. I think they've already done their planning and their allocation of the.
I have a tent too. If they want to Plan a community outreach
So,
tent.
There's a little table somewhere in some corner of the park area. I'll do that. Okay.
No, I agree with everybody saying, past experience was, worked on a couple of very controversial projects in towns that needed approval of votes, and the client hired a PR person
Yeah.
to do the work, and since they organized everything, and we're talking about, we're making all the verbiage, but they're the ones who sort of ramrod it and make it happen. I don't know,
Can we use town money for that? No?
no.
Mm. Good idea. Great idea.
Raise money. Yeah, that's a tough one. But it is that kind of strategy, you know, some sort of a marketing firm type thing that kind of helps you formulate a message that people.
Well, hopefully we can get that, pull that out of HK2, they've had that experience.
Exactly, or samples of stuff that they've used, you know, other towns have used. I mean, just, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, they must have things that other communities that they've helped get their work done that we can use and borrow from.
Do we know anybody in Lee that did this in order for it to be passed to?
I'll reach out to the lead chief. He,
Yeah.
you know, last time I spoke with him, he said call him whenever I need to for any suggestions. I can reach out about their public outreach. Again, I think, Cindy, you said it yourself, you know, I think the majority of people believe that we need it. It's just the price tag.
But I would again ask, what price tag would they be willing to
Yeah.
find? I doubt 20 million would be much more palatable
Yeah, I
than
agree.
40, quite frankly.
Depends on how much it raises their taxes a year.
Correct, anything, right? 2.2 million is perhaps voted against because it will raise their taxes a little bit.
Well, and so much of it depends on how we do the borrowing too, right?
Curiosity, the campaign signs that we used to put up on the sides of the road, you know, vote for so-and-so and that, are they still acceptable in town, or has the bylaw committee struck them down?
We have no bylaw in town for campaign signs. And they don't have to be attended, even, because at one point they thought when people were out front there that the signs had to be attended for voting. There's no bylaw in Southampton for them to be attended.
So, and I'm just asking a question and throwing a thought out here. If we had signs that said something to the effect of, you know, public safety complex, I support, or something like that, and started getting these signs out.
It's about who's going to pay for them, Charlie.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
the first question is, can we do it, is that a good idea or a bad idea? And the reason I'm throwing this out is, if you talk about people that call up and say, I didn't know anything about it, you get enough of those on the street, and it's gonna get people's attention.
We do need a citizens group to form to talk about fundraising and get some seed money in, you know, have people agree to pay 50 or 100 towards developing a budget for that and doing those things and doing it on their brochure and maybe hire a PR person and, or get a volunteer person who's a PR person in town. I don't know who that is, but it really comes down to forming a citizens committee to do that.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, the idea is some sort of lawn signs are fine. It's just a matter of timing. And when are they most, you know, useful, obviously.
I mean, you want them out there like
Sure.
a week or two before
Right.
a vote's needed, but I'm just thinking that that's gonna take time to get that organized
Right, that's
before,
right.
you know.
Sure.
I'm just looking at all the people that don't look at social media, don't pay any attention to anything you mail to them, but do pay attention when they drive down the street and see the sign that says that Uncle Joe seems to think it's a good idea.
Yeah. Good possibility. So,
Do either of your departments have a fund that could be used and they'd be willing to use in this?
I would
No,
have to check
no.
in with Scott.
Scott says no.
No.
Thanks, Scott.
yeah.
You could probably do some like vote today signs,
Yeah.
but that would probably be the extent of it.
Yep.
Could they, so it was my assertion that I would like to have the firefighters and police staff stand up and say why a new facility is needed. That's not even possible at a public forum.
We can't pay them, they have to go there
You volunteer.
voluntarily.
That's the-
Yeah, it's kind of on the border. I mean, they have to be factual. You know, it can't really be their opinion. You can't lead into that whole supporting or not supporting a ballot initiative.
But can they be though, I mean, it's sort of like they're there in their own right as
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Chris Fowle, citizen who happens to be an EMT.
Yeah, as a private citizen, they would actually always have their right of free speech, but wearing a uniform might be a little confusing.
I still feel like I have to be convinced by them that it warrants raising my taxes.
You know, early on in this committee, when John Workman was here, the question came up about probably not passing OSHA standards if somebody was going to come down.
I brought that up last meeting.
Oh, sorry.
No, sorry.
I missed the conversation. What was that? I mean,
I just brought up the fact that he had suggested that to kind of push the point. And Mark's comment, Mark Darnold's comment was you're opening up a can of worms. Am I correct?
Yeah,
that
two-edged
in
sword.
representing
One,
what
you
you
get the
said?
people behind you, but then what do we do when it gets condemned? Or,
I mean, because we're not over a barrel per se.
right, yeah.
And how close are we to being over a barrel? Don't know. I mean,
I have a question that spins off of that. And I really didn't understand the issue when it came before the selectmen. But there was some issue where if we didn't comply with X, the fire insurance rating on all of our homeowners would be affected.
That's the location of the station.
That's a piece, fire hydrants is a piece.
Yes.
Honest goodness, it must have been revolving in the discussion about the dispatch, but I'm sure it's not specifically that. It was something that I picked up in the ether, and I might be wrong. But if there is an argument that avoided costs, and the more direct to a homeowner we could explain, that if we lose some fire insurance rating, or, you know, I think a finance bond rating, where it's going to have a direct quantifiable or specific cost to the taxpayer homeowner. Those are persuasive, that's factual, that's not lobbying. And so that, maybe not liability, but avoided costs in continuing to run these dilapidated facilities compared to the annual operating costs of a better facility. I don't know where the answers lie.
Well, I called my insurance agent to inquire about that, and he said that the facility itself does not make a difference. What matters far more is whether it's a volunteer fire department or a fully staffed, I don't know what the other phrase is, how the proximity of hydrants. But the actual facility itself, he asserted, does not impact, would not impact fire insurance rates to the individual homeowner.
I bet we're burning more oil today than we would be in a new facility. I don't know how to spin these, I am surely not a marketing person, but
Well,
avoided
whatever we're paying
costs.
now for our fire insurance. So we're going to be meeting with our insurance people soon, so, you know, whatever we're paying now from the town budget for insurance, I mean, maybe that changes over time.
I have a 6 o'clock on Cold Spring I have to head to.
Yes, and I'd
No,
like
it's
to
not
tie
your
this up at
house.
6.
So,
That day is coming, huh? No, it's not the house you're thinking.
Well, this is, you know, it's an ongoing project. We need to meet again and keep the conversation going, and maybe you'll have some further thoughts, maybe. And I think that the meeting with HKT will actually help us a lot. Getting some answers will be beneficial. One thing that I did just read in their proposal, as an example with the town of Salisbury, they did say that they prepared not only display boards, but a portable pack-and-go presentation to be used by the police chief.
That's the kind of thing we could.
As a community outreach, to be used on a day-to-day basis.
So that would be useful if we did these sort of things around town. I mean, that would be the ideal thing, whatever that consisted of. Yeah.
So for every traffic stop?
Yeah, I know. Whip it out. You've got to look at this. Yeah, that's right. That's what you're saying.
Interesting.
You know, they do that thing with the boot. They
The
hold
boot,
up the
yeah.
boot, you know?
In the center of the road, that's the fire department.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, really.
Well, is there anything more that we should cover tonight on public outreach? It seems as though maybe well, I've done a lot of talking. Who else would like to make a comment? To wrap up our discussion.
I haven't done this, so I can do it, but, you know, East Hampton Media tapes these and then they're available for viewing, and then you can see how many people viewed even just our meetings. I just wonder.
They can see that, we can't see that.
Yeah, we can see it. I mean, I looked at it for the forum. A lot of people looked on the forum after the fact. It was taped. How many? Can you see that right away? I'm just wondering how people are tracking these meetings and knowing how hard we're working to try to do it right.
So is your question, can you do a rifle shot outreach back to the people who viewed the meeting?
No, that wasn't my question about doing the rifle shot. I was just wondering how many people are watching.
Oh,
these
how many
meetings.
people? And forgive me for the terminology, but it's a very direct way if privacy things.
No, remember when I do want to, I really fell apart on these quizzes. I had a great level of energy at the beginning. I did two of them. I might try to do one final one, but we did ask for, we didn't collect names of people that responded to the quizzes, but we did put an optional question on there. If you wanted to be kept informed of what's happening, provide your email. So before the town meeting, before the election, I had compiled that list and sent out information to them, just saying, you know, there's going to be a meeting, a town meeting, then there's going to be a vote, and just, you know, so I at least got them engaged a little bit, whether they all got it or not, because it comes from a town email, and it may have gone to their junk mail for all I know. But that's the only level of, it's not anonymous, but I mean, it's the only level of people that, from the public, who've said that they want to be kept informed about what's
right. That's an opt-in. That's the
correct.
ideal way.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Did you get 20 or 200?
Yeah, it was closer to 20. Yeah. Yeah. So. Yeah. So.
Most of the views are maybe like 10, 20, 30.
Yeah.
And then the biggest one looks like was the tours with over 500.
The tours?
The video with Barry and
That's good.
yeah.
Maybe we should think about doing, you enjoy doing that so much, creating more, you know, videos of different people going through it. Different people asking questions. I liked the Facebook Live thing they did. It was hard that you did. It was hard to hear you guys because of the traffic a little bit.
Oh yeah, no, we learned a whole lot of things about.
Yes. Number one, for me, a tripod. My arm was tired.
Bigger screen, not standing in the sun, so we couldn't read it. Yeah. We
Wear shorts.
Lordy. It was fun. Well, we had 1,200 views in it.
It was 1,200 that?
Yes,
That one, that was great.
1,250, I think.
So
Oh, that's really good.
And we
You
had-
guys get A+ for
We had probably.
maybe a C- for execution. but-
I think doing that kind of thing again.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think we had maybe 10 people write in with questions.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 20 or 30.
There were people watching, but there were like maybe 10 that asked actual questions, but there were 20 or 30 actually watching, and then it said anyway, over 1,200 views, so.
So maybe when you have your subcommittee meeting, which is a good idea to do it with the candor is more available if it's not a publicly taped meeting. On the other hand, maybe you can give us a report, and that could be a FaceTime Live thing as to what kinds of specific ideas came out of that. And people could watch that if you thought it was a good idea. You know, here's what we're trying to do, and here's what the suggestions were. Just throwing it out. Because I'm going to be interested in what you come back with.
Of course.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And everything we'll come back, we'll be reporting in
Yeah.
the open meeting anyway. And
So you're gonna reach out and schedule this for whatever, could be any time, doesn't have to be at our usual meeting
Right,
time, right? So
right.
depending on when they're available and.
I'll reach out to them.
Okay.
Other business that can't wait until the next meeting?
Good job, all of you, honestly. I have to say thanks. It's a lot of contributions here.
And how about another meeting? Chief, you're going to be away next week.
Yes.
I had said if we didn't finish business, we would also schedule the 15th, but it's beneficial to have both chiefs at these meetings, I find. So I'd like to suggest we go beyond next week. Shall we try for the 22nd? That's a Monday, isn't it? 15, yeah.
It'd be good if you could have had your meeting, your subcommittee meeting before me.
By
Should we-
July 27th? That might be,
No.
That might be hard if you're
that
gone
might be
next
hard.
week.
I'm returning on, I
Yeah.
think, the 18th or the 19th.
How about the
so-
29th, rather than?
Well, so should we wait and have another meeting? Shall we just postpone it until the meeting with HKT has taken place?
All right, and then we'll schedule one from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Chief, as soon as you
Yes.
know when they might be available, then I'll send an email around with a couple of potential dates.
Yeah. And again, that group was going to be,
Scott, you,
yeah.
Mark
Reggie.
Darnold, and Reggie.
All right.
So we'd have that meeting first, and then a group meeting after that. Is that what you're
And then we'll meet, and we'll schedule our next
saying? Okay.
routine meeting.
And Reggie's on the email thread, right? He's on our
Yes, he
current
is.
email thread, all right.
Yeah, I've got his personal email. Yeah, he's on our list, right?
Okay.
Should be.
All right.
No. All right, are we done?
Okay, so we are putting off scheduling our next meeting based on, or it's dependent on when the person-to-person meeting with HKT, so the next thing we need is a motion to adjourn. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Thank you, group.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.